terms of delivery or probes if you're not doing software? How do you test your ideas out? But although I can't see the hands of the people who are visiting online, let's just see for fun. Just for fun, we've got like about 9 people dialed in here. And actually 3 of them are from the Heart of Agile community. So that's really, really interesting, and to see that they're bothering to join in. So now, let's just start with some questions from the room. What's on your mind? Any of you? It's dinner, obviously, you're all eating. I can see you're all eating. You know, so somebody who doesn't have a mouthful of cake or something can ask a question. I'll change it. Somebody who has a mouthful of cake can ask a question. Why limit ourselves?
Well, okay, so scaling Agile is kind of a hot topic. How much do you see it being actually being adopted versus being talked about?
I got one. I
just need to hear the question.
Oh.
I heard the word scaling, which was inevitable, but what was the rest of the question?
Yeah, sorry. I think the microphone's up here.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So there's a lot of discussion about Scale Agile, but how much adoption are you actually seeing?
That's a very good question. How much adoption are we seeing? The short answer is there's a lot of adoption, depending on how good you want that adoption to be. If you know what I mean? Like there are a lot of people who sign up for, you know, whatever fitness programs on January 1st. Well, that doesn't mean they do a very good job on their fitness programs, right? It is interesting because the companies that are adopting Agile now are large companies, and they want to move the entire operation to something that looks like Agile, including IT, non-IT, financial, HR, like everything, right? And that's scale. And what I'll get into a little bit in my talk is what are the topics that occur when you're at scale that are different than when you're on a project. And they're different, they're completely different. And so the traditional Agile Manifesto stuff doesn't apply when you go to scale. You have to ask different questions and look at things a little bit, you know, from a different perspective. So we'll get to that. That's cool. Let's pick up another question. Who else who has a mouthful of food or not would be willing to front up a question? Matt, you could, Matt Kirillov is dialed in here. You could ask a question.
Okay. Sounds good. I always wondered, you have hands down the best grilled beer in Agile.
Can you just speak up really loud? I don't hear a thing.
Okay, I'm switched to phone now. You should be able
Perfect.
to hear me.
Yeah.
I always admired your beard. You have hands down the best beard in Agile and maybe in Lean altogether. And especially living in Florida. How do you get it done? How do you do it, man?
The beard. Says the man with the beard. Matt Scott, the beard to end all beards. And he's throwing me a compliment, man. That's a kind shout out. It's yeah. I've had a beard all my life. I've shaved it 3 times in my life entirely. The first one when I was like, the first time I shaved, I was like 22 years old and starting my first job, and I thought maybe it would be useful to shave. The second time was when I turned 30 and I became an independent consultant. I thought I needed to shave to get a job. And my first employer at the end of the year when I worked there, he told me, I'll hire you anytime, but only if you come with the beard. and the third time when I was actually trying to break a world record in swimming, and when you do that, everybody shaves, you know, all the body hair off. And I said, okay, for this, I will shave my beard. And I had my kids shave my beard. And that was fun, because then they could go, you know, because I was all going to come off anyway. So they made little designs and patterns and shaved it off in all strange ways. And I didn't break the world record at that time. I did break it later, but with the beard later. But I look horrible without a beard. So like beard is there, because me without the beard is not a thing. Hey, I love your question, man. Okay, somebody in the room.
Yeah, I've got one. If you are in an organization that wants to...
Need to speak up, man. I can hardly hear a thing.
If you want to take Agile, but like not necessarily go the technology side, but say outside of, you mentioned say finance, and I actually came from finance background, what would be the steps that you would suggest that somebody want to adopt Agile outside of the tech space within a company?
I think that's such a great question that in fact, I'm going to give you my talk on Heart of Agile. That question will answer itself naturally. And it looks like more people are not coming, so I could actually get started. Did anybody else have something else on their mind? We had scaling, we have beards, and we had Agile outside of tech.
I'll ask a question. I have one. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, okay, my name's Jerry, and what I'm thinking about lately is I'd be interested to hear you talk about when you're coaching at an organization level to help with the Agile, what cues do you look for when you're coaching leaders throughout the organization and know when you've spent enough time trying to help make change and knowing when to take other actions? That's something that's just on the top of my mind that I'd like to hear opinions on.
Sure. You know, and that could be if you guys do a discussion after my call, that could be a good topic. I'll tell you what's totally on the top of my mind these days, absolutely hands down. And we're trying to do this now as a substrate under the Heart of Agile, and you'll come to understand why when I go through the slides. But it's to create a culture of listening. And if you live in the space called collaboration, as I've been doing for the last couple of years, it really changes everything you do. So the Heart of Agile's changed the way that I talk about Agile, the way that I interact with people. There's been a lot of personal growth in the last 4 years since I started, because if you just live in a space that's called collaborate, 100% of the time, you just have to change. And part of it, when I keep reflecting on what was the magic that made the meeting in Snowbird so special, because really we wrote that Agile Manifesto, 17 men, many of them pretty egotistical, you could imagine, wrote this thing in 2 days, and that was magical. And when I go over in my mind, and I've talked about this a lot, I heard myself saying over and over and over again, that what was special in that room was generous listening. That nobody questioned the right, the capacity, the expertise of anybody else. And anybody had an opinion, their opinion was viewed as gold. Even if the people didn't agree with it, they just knew there was gold in there somewhere, and they hunted it down. And I call that generous listening, or listening with wonder and awe. And so now my personal agenda is to increase the quality of listening in all places. So now if you're working with an exec, I would be watching for that, is how good are they at listening to other people as opposed to imposing their view? How good are they at capturing the magical, brilliant ideas of all the people around them as opposed to being stuck in their own idea? When you find that, then these people get this, like it's like improvisational music, it's improvisational dance. Then ideas pop around. This person says something, this person hears it, this person adds something. And so you get this very additive kind of a conversation going. So that's the first part. And the other part for me is, can the person balance two sides of an issue? Because nothing is for free. If you want something, you're going to get this and you're going to lose this, and you're never going to get perfection. And so when an exec says, the one I liked the best was, we were talking about distributed teams, and I gave a long lecture about the cost of distributing teams and the benefits of co-location. And the person said, okay, so we're in Philadelphia, and our last project, we had our top programmer in Raleigh, and that caused some difficulty. I'm wondering whether we had any programmers in Philadelphia who were not like at his level, but were maybe good enough to do the job and be local, right? So that person was seeing the both sides of the equation, right? That there's a benefit from the distribution. There's this expert person. There's a cost, which is the communication. We could have a less expert person, but better communication. Shall we distribute or not distribute, right? So that's the kind of holding two sides of an issue. Those are two things. So I'll give you an example. When I work with people and I get a classically trained project manager or manager, and they say something about, someone says, oh, you have to go and talk to this manager. They hate rework. They won't let us do Agile because Agile, has rework. And so I'll start a conversation. I go, do you ever do rework on stuff? Is that a legitimate topic for you? And they go, well, sure, of course it's a legitimate topic. So I go, well, so when is it legit? When do you do it? And so we start, because then everything's on a gradient. Then you don't have to say you're a bad person, you're a good person, I'm right, you're wrong, any of that stuff. You say, when would you accept rework and how much? When is it too much? When is it good? When is it bad? So now when you get things on a gradient, then you have these really lovely conversations where you're seeking a balance. And then you can have great conversations and you make whatever decisions you do. So that's what I've got. Hey, so what I'm going to do now is, let's see if I can share my screen. If I share my screen and I pop over to, let's see if I can shrink that guy down somewhere. Boop. Let's see if this works. So this is now a standard talk that I give, and it's like an hour-long talk, so I'm not going to do that. And I'm just going to kind of walk it through. I'm going to open doors for conversations. So this should set you up for having some dialogue in your room afterwards. Like, how can I apply it? What does it mean? Follow the implications. So we wrote the Agile Manifesto in 2001. And, it's not very long, but people don't read the whole thing. And about 15 years later, Agile's starting to get a little bit hardening of the arteries. It's very complicated. It's convoluted, it's expensive, it's all these things. So it's kind of hard to get started with it, and you get lost in all the rules, and you just have this feeling it shouldn't have to be that way. So I was challenged to come up with a radical simplification of Agile, and I came up with these 4 words, which are on this lovely sticker, and that website shouldn't say alistair.coburn.us because that's broken. That should say heartofagile.com, where you can all go there and find this talk and other talks and videos and some stuff there. What I came up with is just these 4 words: collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. You see them there. And so that's all I'm selling. And it's pretty darn obvious, to be quite frank, it's obvious. If you collaborate better, your project's going to go better. To the extent you collaborate worse, your project's going to go worse. I mean, there's not a deep mystery here. People forget about it, but it's about that simple. So I don't say how to collaborate, because my belief is we all know how to collaborate. People might not want to, but they know how, right? So just focus on collaborate. This thing, as you'll see, is kind of like a mandala, if I were to pick a fancy word. But it's just a recentering device. It's just a reminder. It's nothing more. Life's complicated. Periodically, put the sticker in front of you and just say, what can we do to improve our collaboration? Right? And then everybody's got ideas, and you can hire consultants, and you can read books, and there's techniques, and there's all this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, you need to collaborate. And if you can hold on just a split second, I hear noise in the background. I'm just going to quiet down the noise in my background. 1 second. Okay, so I'm back. The second thing is deliver. Now deliver looks like it means maybe only be sure to deliver something at the end, but that's not the story. The synonym for deliver is probe. So the deal is this, and now let's talk briefly about Agile outside of software. How do we phrase Agile outside of software? And the answer, because I'm writing the book on this and trying to keep all software out of it, keeping all products out of it, it's, it applies to services, service industry, it applies to social impact projects. It applies to pretty much anything. So how do we talk about deliver when we don't know what the topic area is? And the answer is this. We're trying to have an effect on the world. And I'm going to take off the screen share for a moment because I'm just talking to the same slide here. So I might as well put my face back on. We're starting an initiative, and the initiative intends to have an effect in the world, right? We're trying to impact the world. Now that could be literally trying to get people to boil water in some village in Africa. It could be, social development. It could be getting people to recycle, people to vote. It could be having people put money in my bank account because they buy something, right? So products, whatever that may be. Use some software, use GitHub, I don't know, whatever. Every initiative is intended to have some impact on the world. The problem is that the world runs differently than we think it does. And so our brilliant idea isn't going to work. It's in fact, our brilliant idea is probably improperly phrased, improperly directed, and faultily implemented. And that's for any initiative of any kind. If you look at an organization runs on decisions. Everybody in an organization is making decisions, and people wait on each other for other decisions. And according to the literature that I've been able to find, people make errors in decision-making at the rate of roughly 1 in 5, or 1 in 10 if you're lucky. But if you look at requirements documents and the data on them, about 20% of the requirements document is erroneous or not used or something. And if you look at the nuclear power plants, they catalog every error, and they've got error rates of 1 in 5. So let's be generous, 1 in 10. That's fine. You'll never hit 1 in 20. They come too fast. So let's just say 1 in 10. Any initiative you deliver into the world of any kind has got 100,000 decisions in it, which means you've got 10,000 errors in it. So that's how we start. It's got nothing to do with software. Software is a field in which people are making decisions and embodying those decisions in software, but every initiative you ever do, whatever you deliver in the world, is the embodiment of decisions, right? Whether doesn't matter. Now look how early the errors come in. The initiative, some exec says, our strategic initiative is XYZ, and they'll say, some words. In those words, they'll already have 5 decisions baked in. They'll have multiple decisions. So one of them's already wrong, and you don't know which, right? Even if they were right, the world changes. So you could be right at the beginning and wrong at the end. So you have to steer. So we got 2 things. The original decisions have errors in them, and the world is changing, so you have to track it. So that's why we need Agile in the first place. So what we're looking for are, how do you put tests of our decisions into the world to get feedback about what's right and what's wrong as soon as possible, so that you don't waste a lot of money chasing down, building out a wrong decision. Now, out of the people in the room, how many of you are actually in software? How many are you not in software? How many of you are not in the room and don't have arms and are not going to raise your hand no matter what the question is? Thank you very much, except for the guy who didn't raise his hand. Very good on you, sir. Right. So, I just think of an example, the example that comes to my mind is executive comes and says, our target audience are people between 20 and 30 years old who spend 3 hours a day on Snapchat. Why not? It's a thing. They build some stuff out, they put it in the test market, and it's been taken up by teens and preteens between 12 and 17. When they get in that information, suddenly everything changes because the audience is different, they're minors, you have to look at certain legal implications, the marketing changes, and so on. So that little decision, just that shift, an age group, right, in the demographic, makes a big difference in what they should do in the initiative, right? So that's an example of a decision that has to be fleshed out. And so part of the art of agile product management, modern product management people are so agile, they can't use Scrum. These are people who say, I'm making a decision. I don't know if this is right or wrong. I need to put a probe into the world to find out if I should go this way or this way. So target market 20-year-olds or 12-year-olds, right? That would be a question we have. They can't wait 2 weeks for the Scrum team to write some code and put it out. They need the answer tonight because it's holding up the decisions they're going to make tomorrow, right? So the modern product management people are super hyper agile, and Scrum teams look slow by comparison, right? So lean startup has a ton of ideas about how to validate hypotheses for initiatives early. And agile product management people do also. Lots of different ways in this book's on it. So that's what I mean when I say deliver, and a synonym is probe, and that's how we take it out of software, right? Everything you deliver in the world is the embodiment of decisions, errors in decision making, 1 in 10. How are you going to find those errors before you go away and build stuff? Whatever your stuff is that you're building, marketing material, sales materials, promotional pamphlets, you know, to waste 2 weeks with a team of programmers looks really expensive and wasteful if you can find another way to invalidate, to find your broken decisions. Okay, then the next two, it's actually one thing, but I split it into two: reflect and improve. And in Scrum they talk about inspect and adapt. In my old stuff, it was reflective improvement. And when I was making this little shape here, I realized that inspect and adapt, reflective improvement, it's two concepts and it's too many syllables, and people don't do a good job on it. So I split it into two. The two kind of come as a package, but I split it into two because I want to be able to say stop and reflect. Nothing more. Stop, reflect. What do you do when you reflect? Why do you reflect? You're looking for insights. You're looking to find things. You're scanning left and right. You're prioritizing. You're seeing what you care about. You're seeing what you learned. There are no decisions in it yet. You're just looking for insights. Yeah, let's reflect. People do a crummy job on that, so I put it separately. And then you look to improve. And our stuff these days is improve in tiny steps, little baby steps all the time. Baby. You know, 1,000 baby steps is a lot of steps, right? So that's the heart of Agile. That's all I've got. You know, I'm going to show you some more stuff that you may find more interesting, but the point of the heart of Agile is just to make it so simple. You know, it fits on that little sticker, doesn't have my name on it, doesn't have any words on it besides those 4 words: collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve. And from those, you just recenter yourself and say, let's take a look at our delivery techniques at the moment. How do we get feedback off of the delivery? Right? Then improve, and you improve the collaboration, the delivery, the reflect, improve. You improve everything. All right, let's go just to show you now in the talk. What's happened is after those 4, those of us who've been working in this area kind of dig into these 4 words and say, gee, what are some interesting topics and issues behind these that are maybe not known so much that we can go put our energy on? It doesn't make it more complicated. This is just, you know, we're digging around. So what I'm going to show you here is here's a blowout of these 4. And so if you look at collaborate, you have to take on the subject of trust. But trust is a huge topic, right? Oh my God. And so if I blow it out one more, you'll see above trust, you've got failure, listening, guest leadership, silos, politics, rewards. That's where the annual appraisals come in. It's a tough thing. If you've got executive bonuses that are conflicting bonuses for the execs, it will put an upper limit on the collaboration you can accomplish. So suddenly executive bonuses are on the table as a valid discussion item. So when you talk about adoption at scale, first thing I ask is, what do the executive bonuses look like? Immediately after that comes, what are the annual appraisals? What do the employee appraisals look like? Because if collaboration isn't one of the first 2 things on the evaluation form, it isn't going to happen. And I'm happy to say I found maybe 2 or 3 companies where where the quality of collaboration is one of the top two things that people are evaluated on, right? So you go after that. So that's in rewards and that's in culture. In delivery, you see the internal flow, you know, because decisions look like manufacturing items in the sense that people wait on other people for decisions and then build on decisions. And what we finally deliver, whatever it may be, is this construction of decisions and embodiment of decisions. We can apply all of lean production, queue management, Kanban, all of Toyota Production System fits where the unit of inventory is a decision, not a work product. Then you've got the deliver for learning, and that's all the stuff that I talked about with, you know, early delivery of hypotheses and decisions and lean startup and all that stuff. And then you have stage delivery, you know, delivery for income and whatever all else is. And then in reflect and improve, we're very particularly looking at a branch of psychotherapy these days called solution-focused coaching, solution-focused psychotherapy, which is very future-focused. You do no root cause analysis. You're only trying to get people to articulate concretely a future that they want to live in. And in the articulation of that, then they see how to take baby steps in that direction. And after a bunch of baby steps, then things get better. So that's, now I'm looking at my clock here. I'm gonna wind this up in a moment. I just want to, there's the picture here. I just want to put this in front of you. And this is from software, but it could be from anywhere, right? So the people are working and they're waiting on each other for decisions. And typically an organization looks like that with big batches of decisions, large documents. Any requirements document contains, you know, probably 10,000 decisions or 50,000 decisions. Any pile of code you integrate's got a bunch of decisions. We're trying to use like Toyota Production System and lean techniques so that we have small batches of work going around. Nobody works any faster, but the system operates faster. And it can change direction, and you have fewer mistakes built on top of mistakes if you work it this way, right? And there's extra rework, and there's extra work, and there's overhead. And so you don't get anything for free, and you know, you go down that discussion. But this is the theme. And if any of you are working outside of software, it'd be really fun for you to look at what decisions are likely to be wrong and who is the person that everybody's waiting on for some decisions. That person's the bottleneck station, et cetera. In the pay to learn realm, what we've got in this picture here is the growth of knowledge over time. And it took me years actually to understand this drawing. What's happening over time is there's no debugging of those decisions. Right? You don't know. You're just adding decisions on decisions on decisions. And when it comes time to deliver your magnificent opus, if it's a marketing thing, or if it's a software, or if it's a service, or if it's a product, or whatever, the moment you deliver it to the world, all of those decisions that were wrong, they all pop out at the same time, right? So that's pretty ugly.
Hey, Alistair, are you displaying something?
Yeah. What?
We're not seeing it on our side.
1 second. I'm going to stop the screen share. See if I can do that.
Sorry about that.
Am I screen sharing still?
No.
So that's too bad. I was talking, looking off in the distance, thinking you guys were seeing all my slides.
Sorry about that.
So let me roll back. Let me roll back. Hang on.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you for interrupting me. All right. So what I did was this. I showed you that slide, or I didn't show you that slide, as the case may be. Right? So there's collaborate, expanding into culture, trust, collaboration. Delivery with internal flow, learning, income. Right? You guys see that? Yay! And there's the big blowout. And there you see cultures, you see rewards, politics, silos, guest leadership, listen, failure, all that stuff. You see lean, Kanban, revenue stuff, right? And then this is the part I just got done talking about, and I need you to see is the thing with the people waiting on each other and everything they pass to each other is a decision, and that's the picture I wanted you to see, where most organizations have big documents and big piles of decisions You know, if you integrate 10,000 lines of code, there's a bunch of decisions in there. If you have a requirements document with 300 pages, there's a bunch of decisions in there. If you do a UI design and pass it to someone to program up, that's a bunch of decisions in there. You know, if you, any document that anybody writes contains hundreds of decisions straight off the bat. Pretty much anything says about the project already contains, you know, a few decisions to a few dozen. We're trying to get a picture that looks like this, where you've got small work packets going through the system, and nobody works faster, but the queues are smaller, the corrections are quicker, the new work built on top of bad work is less because you find the mistakes earlier, so there's less waste. There's overhead in doing this, and so that's the thing I said, you get this bit more overhead. Automation's your friend, efficiency's your friend. But the big deal is you're catching the errors sooner. All right. And then this is the curve I was just talking about. So thank you for interrupting me. Where if we look at that, there's knowledge on the vertical axis, time on the horizontal axis, and I just have a cost line, you know, because you're paying salaries. And everybody's working, but you're not debugging the decisions. You're not finding those errors. Everybody's just working, and you have some errors, and you just keep working, right? You don't know what's wrong. You don't know what's wrong where. And then when you go to deploy, whether it's a marketing campaign or software product, you know, whatever it could be, then all the mistakes jump out at you, and then you get to learn at the very end. And that's the problem with waterfall, but it's not just software, it's with every industry. What we're looking for is to have little mistakes. You see that stair step there? What you want is lots of little things that could go wrong, and you artfully decide where you might be wrong. What hypotheses are in jeopardy, right? So if you say Snapchat users between the age of 20 and 30, you have to validate that Snapchat's, you know, the marker that you want, and that 20 to 30 is the age demographic that you want. So you run little experiments to try to validate, invalidate, or improve those decisions as quickly as possible. And you do this with everything in your knowledge, ideally goes up. Usually there's a catastrophic surprise toward the end that no matter what you thought about, you didn't find. That's kind of normal, but you know, we're just trying to reduce that. So there's this period where you're doing a lot of learning and reducing risk. And then your knowledge flattens out and there's less risk in the project. And the things you're learning about is like, what business should we be in? What's our business model? What are the technical elements? Who are we working with? How do we get people to communicate better? How do we, you know, raise morale? What's the cost? What's the schedule? All that kind of thing are things that you're running early, right? I'm gonna jump over this section just because of time. I'm sorry to flash, but you can, it's on the Heart of Agile website. I just want to get this one here. This is the last thing I'll talk about. If we look at future focus, which is what we call it, the solution focused psychotherapy, turns out you don't focus on the solution. So it's kind of annoying from a title perspective. Engineers get very literal and they start talking about the solution. You say, don't talk about the solution. They said, well, you told us it's called solution focus. So anyway, so we call it future focused conversations. And the trick here is you get people to notice, this is totally, you know, in the realm of psychology. Notice the things that you want present. So, you know, people complain and they say there's a lot of fights. And the more time you spend talking about the fights, then the more you notice fights. But if you start highlighting all of the moments of good collaboration and you celebrate them and you have people try to notice them, and people say what they would like dialogues to look and sound like, and then they look for that, then they pull that into the present. So the trick here is inside the reflection workshop or your retrospective, have people say, when things are working well, what I will notice is, you know, I will notice, let's say, calm bodies, calm voices. I will notice absence of, you know, iPhones in the meeting or something like that. And then you start noticing what out of that's already present, and you try to amplify what's already there. So that's the approach we take, and some of the people in Europe are having, you know, good success with that. So that's where we're going. Yeah, so the end of this talk, because I didn't want to spend all my time on the talk, is just simplify all of this, right? Just simplify, simplify, simplify. Just go for those 4 words. And then you apply it to any industry. And I'm going to stop my screen share. There we go. So that's the talk, guys. You look frozen. Are we still there? Hello.
Yeah, we're sure.
Oh yeah, your video is frozen.
There we go. Is that better?
There we go.
Yay.
Did you get the last slides or did it freeze for you also?
We got the last slides.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, it's 6:40. Tell me what's on your mind. So that's what I have to say about Heart of Agile. Now, I would say I'll take questions at any level on any topic.
You guys got it.
I need to get Matt back on so that he can ask interesting questions not having to do with software development. So Matt, do you do any dancing by chance or any arts at all?
Oh, he's trying to get off mute.
He's trying to get Oh, is that nose? Is that
Yeah, Matt, take off. You've got it on mute. I love your ear. It doesn't matter, but taking it off mute's the magic.
Oh, my apologies. I salsa dance.
Nice. Very good, sir. I do tango by preference.
Nice. Tango is hard.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, the half-life, the half period of learning is 5 years. So I'm like just barely one cycle through learning. So I'm now a low intermediate social dancer. But
I got a good question for you that has nothing to do with body hygiene or dancing. Can I ask you real quick?
yeah, go.
All right. So I know that you're doing certified Scrum training, and I was wondering, are those more Heart of Scrum, or are they more traditional Heart of Agile, or are they more traditional Scrum trainings? What is the split there?
Yeah, really good question. And I'm just setting up now. I may give up my certified Scrum trainer license next year because Heart of Agile and Scrum are a little bit diverging. Although the Scrum Alliance has a new CEO, Howard Sublett, and he's an amazing guy and he's cleaning up that place super, super well. But still, when I teach a class, I teach it with my whole personality, right? So it doesn't matter what I teach. It's going to be all there. I happen to be very good at following rules. I'm a rule follower, except if I don't like the rules. And then I'm suddenly like very creative. Shall we put it that way? So I signed a contract saying that I would teach Scrum and teach out of the Scrum Guide. So one day, fully, one day out of my 2-day class, I'm like, guys, if you want to do Scrum, this is what Scrum is. You have to know what it is and what it isn't, right? We all read the Scrum Guide in class. And we take the exam in class. And I want everybody to know what it is and what it isn't. And we debate it. Because when people come out of my Scrum Master training, they're going to encounter all kinds of people who say all kind of nonsense about Scrum. And I want them to be able to defend themselves. And they go, so we debate. The Scrum Guide says this. Does it mean this or this or this or this? And what did you hear, right? So we practice that. Then, as an author of the manifesto, it's my job to make sure that people don't get lost in Scrum. So I have to make them safe for Scrum, and then I have to make them safe being relaxed, agile, effective, whatever, regardless of Scrum. That's my assignment in teaching. And so the way of teaching the more general version is, of course, Heart of Agile, where I just talk about collaboration, delivery, feedback, all of those things, just nothing more than how do you be effective. So I want when people go to my class, they have these two things. right? So that's the answer to your question. It's a great question. And I have no problem doing that because I try to get people to both be effective and understand what is and what isn't Scrum. And the reason I may not re-up for certified Scrum trainer next year is just because that time I spend on Scrum in my Heart of Agile class, I spend more on, guess what? Collaboration, reflective improvement, guest leadership, right? All of those things. And slowly I'm going like I would rather spend my time teaching those things. All right, so there's a divergence in the content. That was a great question. So,
a question. So you just explained that you're considering giving up your certifications, and so I myself have 2 Scrum certifications that I'm really considering not renewing this year, and I feel coming to that decision is that it feels like agility has become big business. Certification has become a thing that is that really you're certified, and now you practice Scrum, or or SAFe, or whichever other framework of the week it is, right? And so kind of harking back to the days when you guys were concepting this concept of agile and agility. Did you guys ever envision that it would actually get to this point of where agility is less of a way of collaborating and kind of has become a business model on itself? I mean,
yeah, no. The first thing is in 2001, I don't think any of us thought it would get to this point, right? That's the first thing. Like, it's Pandora's box, right? So once you open Pandora's box, you don't get that stuff back in again. There are people who are vehemently against all forms of certificates. I helped write the Declaration of Interdependence, the project management version of the Agile Manifesto. And that group, the APLN, Agile Project Leadership Network, maybe just called the Agile Leadership Network, we had a board meeting, and after a hot debate, decided not to pursue any form of certification. All right, so that the people who were anti just voted it down. Now, there's a problem with that, because that's why you don't hear about APLN, or Agile Leadership Network, because certificates are part of why Scrum penetrated and Agile penetrated. So it's this two-edged sword. This really, and I'll say it because I say it in all my classes. This 2-day certificate is a hoax, right? That you could be a certified Scrum Master after 2 days. And I say this in my classes, right? But the thing that's interesting is, because of this weird hoaxy thingy, 10,000 people, actually now it's 900,000 people have taken that CSMs. And so Martin Marietta, Lockheed, the companies that we could never get any purchase in, have suddenly got 10,000 people running around the halls yelling sprints, backlogs, pigs, chickens, Scrum Masters, and product owners, right? They have changed Lockheed and Martin Marietta in ways that we never could. So this I hate to say it, this brain dead, stupid 2-day certificate has literally changed the world in ways that none of us could without it, right? So we have to have some amount of respect for the significance of this certificate topic, right? That having been said, there are 2 problems with it that I'd like to help remove as we go forward with the Heart of Agile. The first is that you have to pay an annual fee to show you're still a CSM is purely a money-making gadget, right? That's more hoaxy stuff. It's very sad. I started, as some of you may or may not know, a thing called the International Consortium for Agile, and it is nothing but certifications. What we did was to specify a curriculum for each specialty, executives, what we call value managers or product owners, programmers, testers, coaches, facilitators, right, UX people, we got them all. And there's a program of learning, and we got experts together, and we said, hey guys, no vested interests. What do you think people should know about if they come out of courses of these many days? They wrote it down and we included it, right? And then so people create courses and submit against that and say this course teaches these objectives and blah, blah, blah and thing. As we started that, we had this discussion, should we require annual fees? And one of the founders, who was a business guy, said, You don't pay Harvard every year for the right to say that you graduated from Harvard. You say Harvard class of 86, and that's your whole life. You don't pay Harvard another penny for being able to say Harvard class of 86. So we dropped that. And what I would love to see, what I tried to get into IC Agile, I didn't. And I left IC Agile in 2012, by the way, and it's bought and sold, and I don't know who owns it anymore. But I wanted people to put the date that they got a certificate. So if someone says in their byline in their email and it said like, Certified Scrum Master 2008, and that's all they've got, then that tells you that they took one course and then they stopped learning, right? So if you date stamp, then you get the pedigree of the person. You get something about their level of interest in learning, and then you don't have to put the weight on the certificate. You don't have to pay the money. The second thing is the mistake that made CSM powerful as a tool for changing the world, but introduced a poison into the system, is that you're a certified X. A certified X to me, is poisonous, right? So you're a certified Scrum Master. That sounds terrible because it has the word master at the end. So now you're a certified master, after 2 days. And everybody's copied that. And there's a huge pressure to be a certified thingy-do, right? And I want to get back to before CSM, companies needed, the HR department said, you have to have a certificate of attendance for this course or I can't pay them. People need the certificate of attendance to show that they've been to the class. But it's a certificate of attendance, for goodness sakes, right? So-and-so completed the requirements for this course, right? So we're going to roll back to that. And in fact, I just got a complaint because we're updating our website and the certificates came down. And someone said, I'm teaching about the Heart of Agile at my new company, but I can't show them that I took a course. I need the certificate online so I could show my colleagues that I attended your course. So when I tell them, they know that, I'm not just making this stuff up, right? So certificates are important. And so what I want to do is to get back to certificates of attendance, ideally date stamped, right? And then with the Heart of Agile, if you look at those four quadrants, they're huge. We could have dozens of courses in different ways of collaborating. You could have lean Kanban stuff. You could have solution focused stuff. We could have specialized instructors who have a specialty topic. And you go to a 2 or 3 day course to learn about the topic, right? And you can assemble then the different parts. So that's probably the direction we're going to go on certificates, is to try to make it's there, it's real, it's a thing, but not too offensive, right? Not with the problems that I just outlined.
Sure.
That's cool. Hey guys, I gotta go.
Awesome.
I hope that there's some things for you to hang around and love it if you discuss like any hot topics in your world around collaboration. What does delivery look like in your very specific, niche areas that ideally even are not software, or if they are, you still have the requirements to deal with, right? Or whatever. Have that, and then talk about how does anybody ever stop and reflect? What do you reflect on when you stop and reflect? Right? Those things. Cool. So I'll leave you with that all. Is that good?
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. See you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Alistair.
Thank you, Alistair.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.